Do you ever feel overwhelmed by the ever-changing world of technology? Tech It Out can help make some sense of it all. Breaking down geek speak into street speak, technology columnist, author, and TV personality Mark Saltzman covers consumer technology each week for every listener. Mark tackles the latest news, reviews, and how-tos to help you understand what's hot, what's not, and why.
Hey everyone, welcome to Tech It Out. It's episode 394. I'm here in Bologna, Italy, at an AWS event, visiting the Ferrari factory today and attending a trial race tomorrow. So if you're an F1 fan, you're going to love today's Tech It Out because we're going to kickstart the show in a minute with an interview about how tech and sports go hand in hand. After that, we're going to get our game on with SanDisk, who joins us to chat about gaming storage solutions for consoles and PCs. And finally, a new AI-powered wearable for your wrist called Be Pioneer that does some wild things for you, and it's only $50. All of this and more on an all-new Tech It Out powered by Visa. Securing the world's payments is priority one. I'll tell you more about Visa's anti-fraud efforts shortly, but let's officially kick off this brand new show with our first interview. All right. So as I mentioned off the top of the show, I'm in Italy. I'm here with Julie Souza, Global Head of Sports at AWS, to talk about the intersection of technology and sports. Lovely to meet you. And this is a pretty exciting week, no doubt, for AWS and for sports fans.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be with you, and it's a pleasure to be here in Italy.
So why don't we first talk a bit about your role that AWS, Amazon Web Services, has a dedicated Global Head of Sports person. So maybe you could talk to us about AWS's role in sports.
I mean, I think it's exciting. If you think about sports, those properties are businesses in and of themselves too, right? And they have technical needs. And so I'm very privileged to work with customers like the NFL and the National Hockey League and Formula One, and PGA Tour, and the list goes on.
I've heard of some of those.
Yeah, just small names. Bundesliga in Germany. So we work with a lot of different sports customers to help deliver technical infrastructure support, but also helping them think about how technology can help fuel innovation and drive business outcomes that are going to matter to them depending on where they sit in the ecosystem.
Speaking of driving, just as an example of how AWS, which is a cloud provider, how would they help, say, an F1 team? I think you have a partnership with Ferrari, for example. So can you give us an example in layman terms how AWS helps a team like Ferrari? We'll get to fan engagement in a moment, but the data that's collected, how is that leveraged?
Yeah, I mean, you're hitting on the nail on the head there with the data. It's all rooted in data, and I think that people don't understand how much data is now getting collected out of sports that truthfully just wasn't available when I was a kid growing up a sports fan, right? So I always point to, a typical soccer match is collecting about 3.6 million points of data. NFL has next-gen stats in the United States. That's about 500 million points of data per season to help inform those analytics, which we can talk about a little bit later. And Formula One collecting 1.1 million points of data per second off of over 300 sensors on those cars, right? So this is huge volumes of data that no human is interpreting, right? This is a job for machine learning and artificial intelligence. And so you've got all this copious data, and then you're trying to figure out how do we make sense of it? What insights can we glean? And the use cases are varied, right? It could be Ferrari, team strategy. How do we understand, sensors on our cars, and when can they tell us when we need to pit? What's our tread look like? One of the interesting things we saw with F1, Ferrari is looking at this data to help drive its insights around race strategy. And so, this is time matters. This is milliseconds matter, right? And so if you've got a pit crew that's over rotating a particular lug nut, that might cause instability in the engine and take them off track, quite literally, right, in terms of their race strategy. So it's really getting those insights from the telemetry data and fueling those back into race strategy.
As you said, every millisecond counts. So if they can find efficiencies in their races by using sensors and AI and AWS on the back end, which is in the cloud, it's on your servers that AWS owns throughout the world, in almost real time, they can shave off those little precious milliseconds. But it's also for safety's sake.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite story about safety, clearly there are use cases in racing, but the National Football League in the U.S. dedicated an awful lot of time and resources to really improving the safety of that game. I mentioned 500 million points of data per season inform next-gen stats. There are 500 million points of data per week that inform their digital athlete product, which is a player health and safety portal that really helps teams identify players that are at risk of injury and get to them before injury is sustained, right? So you're changing up load management, training regimens. In the first season that they rolled that product, the digital athlete portal, out to all 32 clubs, there were 700 fewer missed games by athletes and players in the league, which is fantastic. It serves everybody, right? The players want to be on the field playing. The owners who spend an awful lot of money on these players want their best players on the field, and fans certainly want to see the athleticism of their favorite players on the field. So it's sort of a win-win-win.
I'm going to ask you about fan engagement in a moment, but just going back to safety, I understand that there are cameras on NFL players that know precisely how, when, and where they're hit in order to reduce things like concussions. So all that data is being collected, even if it's not sensors. These are highly specialized, accurate cameras that can record and then upload this data, which is really interesting. But you brought up something else now. So not only is data used by teams and perhaps individual athletes, let's say a tennis player, in order to improve their game, and we've talked about safety, but data can also be used for a fan of, say, soccer or F1 or hockey or basketball or football, you name it. How does AWS increase the engagement for a fan, whether they're there in person or watching a televised match?
Really, it's an interesting question, and sometimes I get the question, like, is the data too much, right? Is it alienating in some way?
Not for hardcore fans.
And and I always say, like, not if we're doing it right, right? The whole point of these insights and the data that we put out there for fans is so that they will be more invested in what they're watching. And I always say, if you feel smart about what you're watching, you'll probably watch more of it, right? So how do we fuel fans with the data and the insights to help them, like, sort of lean into that viewing experience? Next-gen stats in the NFL, for F1 insights for Formula One, Edge IQ for NHL, Bundesliga has match facts. Like, all these properties are propagating these sets of analytics that are really meant to bring fans in and help them understand what they're watching.
My sister and brother-in-law are huge F1 fans, and it's not unusual for my brother-in-law to have a tablet on his lap while he's watching a race on TV, because he has, apps that may be powered by AWS that show him more than what you would get on, the broadcast rights for a race.
What you can do with that data, it shows up in graphics, it can show up in second screen experiences, and you even think about some of the capture of that data. It's telemetry, it's optical tracking through cameras like you talked about, it's sensors in the players and in the balls in some of these field sports. But, Formula One also has a F1 TV, right? And they have a premier tier now where you can pull in these data overlays on what you're watching, and it's multicast, 20 different camera views, so you can sort of decide how you want to consume your race, which I think is like where we're going, right? If I'm going to mix my sports metaphors here, that's where the puck is going, allowing fans to create and produce their own game viewing experience in a way that feels natural and engaging for them. And that answer for you might be very different than for me. So I think that's where we're going, to this place of personalization, and the data plays a big part in doing that.
Yeah, great point. Just a minute left with Julie Souza, Global Head of Sports at AWS. We're here in Italy. Pardon some ambient noise in our hotel. We're getting ready to tour the Ferrari factory tomorrow and interview some key players on the Ferrari team, and then, of course, watch a trial race, a practice race, which is really exciting. You mentioned the NFL earlier. We talked primarily about safety and other data that AWS is helping to collect, analyze, and deliver. But let's also talk about something that was just revealed today, tied to the NFL schedule, which I know so many people are eagerly anticipating. So tell us about AWS's role here.
Sure. I love this. First, let me just throw some more numbers at you. Obviously, there are 32 clubs playing 272 games across 18 weeks. When the NFL is looking at putting that optimal schedule together, there are 26,000 factors they have to consider. Things like bye weeks and travel times and, venue availability and whatnot. That yields 1 quadrillion potential NFL schedules. Like, that's a crazy number.
That is a crazy number,
right?
Yes.
And
broadcast rights. I mean, there's all kinds of things.
And optimizing for ratings. I mean, those 26,000 factors, I wouldn't be surprised if there's 27,000 next year, right? So you're always putting new inputs in here. And the compute power of doing all of those simulations of like this, looking at the various schedules and whittling it down to the optimal schedule, that's what we help them do. It's a story about the NFL schedule, but it's also a story about making sense of very large volumes of complex data.
Before we wrap up, AI has been such a buzzword over the past 2 years, and it's probably more Gen AI, of which Amazon has a big hand in as well, including Alexa Plus and some other technologies. But can you give us one example, before I let you go, Julie, of how AI is helping sports powered by AWS, something that maybe our listeners didn't know about? Or you called it machine learning, which is a form of AI.
Yeah, I appreciate the distinction because AI/ML has been around for a long time. Since we're here and we're with F1, I'll talk about Track Pulse, which is what Formula One has introduced. And it's basically a tool that lets them call all of their real-time analytics off of the track during race, as well as all of their historical data, and put forth insights that help inform the storytelling with their broadcast partners and with their producers themselves. So it's all, to understand the context of what fans are watching and pull that up real time. That would have been previously impossible. There's nobody going out there and being able to scour the vast trove of historical data, as well as the input, like we talked about, all of the data coming off those cars in real time, and surface insights to help inform the storytelling. So Track Pulse is a generative AI tool that's really helping drive operational efficiency that actually has end user value and fan value, because we're able to tell you more interesting and intricate stories.
Love it, Julie. Thank you so much. Congrats on having a super cool and important job.
Super fun. I love it so much. Thank you.
Yeah. And where can our listeners go for more info on AWS and sports?
AWS.com/sports.
Oh, easy peasy.
Easy.
All right. Thank you so much, and great to meet you. Thanks again.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks so much.
We get our game on with SanDisk when we return after this short break.
Listen to Check It Out whenever you want. Find the Check It Out podcast at iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to Tech It Out. We cover cybersecurity a lot on this program and how you can best protect yourself in the digital age, even if you're not super tech savvy. One part of the solution is securely shopping online. And so I'm thrilled about my partnership with Visa on Tech It Out, as they've made some significant investments in fraud prevention over the past 5 years, as much as $10 billion. Yes, that's billion with a B, to support Visa's brand promise to protect the financial information of individuals and businesses. Zero liability means peace of mind when you shop online using your Visa card. There can be no half measures when it comes to cybersecurity, which is why the company takes an aggressive and multi-layered approach to combating the rising threat of malicious software and other threats by well-funded and global criminal enterprises. Read more about Visa and how securing the world's payments is priority one at visa.com/security. That's visa.com/security. As many of my listeners know, SanDisk is one of my favorite tech companies with awesome storage solutions, both internal and external, whether it's for backing up files, for content creators, or for entertainment purposes, like gaming. Joining us to share what's new for gamers in particular, we've got on the line Jimmy Gomez. He's a former engineer and current product marketing manager at SanDisk, focusing on the video gaming space. Welcome back to the show, Jimmy. Good to talk to you again.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me.
So, hey, before we talk about gaming and what SanDisk solutions are for that crowd, tell us a bit about the company, SanDisk.
Yeah, so as many of you have probably seen over the last few years, SanDisk was a brand under Western Digital. But earlier this year, we split into two separate public companies, and we split by technology. So SanDisk is an innovator in data storage solutions, whether we're making products for the cloud all the way down to the consumer, right? Someone who says, oh, I need a micro SD card for my new camera.
So let's chat about SanDisk for gamers. Storage isn't just for backing up files like we just talked about, like documents or home movies. How are gamers using flash-based SanDisk solutions?
Yeah, so I feel like an interesting transition that happened when the PS5 and Xbox Series X and S came out about, almost 5 years ago now. So the big thing that happened was gaming consoles finally transitioned from HDDs to solid state drives, right, to SSDs. And then more importantly, I should say, they transitioned to what we call an NVMe SSD. So I guess just to be technical to say like, okay, what does NVMe stand for? The actual definition is non-volatile memory. And then the E just means express.
So this is like the slot that you would snap the memory in, right? It's just more advanced slot.
Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of explaining like, okay, how you're plugging this SSD into your computer, or in this case, like in the gaming consoles.
Got it. So we are talking about gaming across the board, whether it's for PCs, even handheld PCs, which we'll start with in a moment, as well as console gaming. So PS5, Xbox Series S and X, and Nintendo Switch and Switch 2, which take memory cards. So let's start off with, I believe it's called the WD Black SN770M, and that is a SanDisk-based NVMe SSD storage solution. Is this for gaming handhelds like Steam Deck or ROG Ally or Legion Go from Lenovo?
Yeah, exactly. So the reason we actually built the 770M is because some of the, like you said, the Steam Deck and the first Asus Ally, I also believe in even the MSI Claw, a lot of these handhelds were...
Right. Yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah. They launched with smaller SSDs. So one thing to know, when you're looking at an NVMe SSD, a lot of times you'll see something that says M.2. So M.2 is what we call the form factor, just kind of trying to tell you like, hey, this is the size. And so it's an M.2, and then there's usually 4 numbers after that. So you'll see like 2280, which means 22 millimeters wide and 80 millimeters long.
Oh, cool.
So
fun fact.
Yeah, exactly. So if you see like 2280, 2230, right? So, or 2242, that's what it's trying to tell you. It's 22 millimeters wide and then how long it is. So with the 770M, it is our 2230 form factor. So that means it's 22 millimeters wide and 30 millimeters long. So it's pretty small. So these handhelds, I think they're trying to put a lot of power in it, right? And the battery and this and that. So they opted to have a smaller SSD inside of them, literally like by size, right? Not talking even the capacity. So the 770M is for those gamers who, maybe they've had a Steam Deck or an Ally or whatever handheld. They bought it right when it came out, and they bought maybe a 500 gig capacity or a 1 terabyte. And now they're starting to run out of storage. And like I think all of those products, they have micro SD or SD slots. So you could use an SD card, which SanDisk does make those as well. I don't want to steer away from that, but the 770M is for someone who's like, hey, I want to put a 2 terabyte NVMe in my device that will likely be a bit of a speed upgrade, but also a capacity upgrade. So it's definitely for those who are looking to add more SSD storage instead of a micro SD card.
Yeah, and games are getting bigger. So, I mean...
Oh, absolutely.
Like over 100 gigs in many instances. So you need that extra storage, or you're going to have to delete games you still want to play in order to install new ones, which no one wants 100%. To do. 100%. So that's the SN770M. It's for handheld gaming systems. Let's now pivot and talk about the WD Black SN7100 NVMe SSD. And again, I know it might be confusing for our audience because we just said how SanDisk split from Western Digital, but it is still branded as WD Black, which is like the gaming line, right?
Yeah. So any WD Black, flash products or SSD products, we are making those right now. We split by technology, but we're still currently using the same, Western Digital brands.
Yeah, the naming convention.
Yeah, exactly.
I get it. We'll learn all about that product when we return on Tech It Out.
Want to follow Mark? Google him. Mark with a C and Saltzman with a Z. Breaking down geek speak into street speak. This is Tech It Out. Tech It Out with technology columnist, author, and TV personality Mark Saltzman.
Welcome back to Tech It Out. We're chatting with Jimmy Gomez. He is a product marketing manager at SanDisk who focuses mostly on the video game space. We're talking about SanDisk solutions, flash-based solutions for both PC gamers as well as console players as well. All right, so it's called the SN7100. Is this also for PCs or is this for consoles?
Yeah, so the 7100 is for PCs, laptops, and some of the gaming handhelds. So I mentioned that a lot of those gaming handhelds, they do use the 2230 form factor, but we have seen it's the Asus ROG Ally X. So I think they launched that last summer. So that one, they decided to change the SSD requirement from a 2230 to a 2280. So 2280 is kind of like the normal SSD form factor, if you will, like the normal size that you would see. So when we built the 7100, it wasn't necessarily just for that handheld, but what's really unique about the 7100 is that it is what we call a DRAM-less drive. And so DRAM, or other people would know it just as your RAM in your computer. You can put DRAM on your SSD to give it a bit of a performance bump, right? It'll make it go faster. You can get more performance out of the drive. But that comes at a little bit of a cost, meaning like it takes a little bit more power. It generates a little bit more heat. Again, you do this when maybe your NAND technology, like the actual memory on your drive, can't go as fast as you want it. But with the 7100, it's our new NAND. So it's our BiCS8 technology that is our IP, our intellectual property. But we're able to get a lot of performance out of it, meaning we didn't feel like we needed the DRAM on the drive. So how that translates for someone like a customer is that makes it more power efficient, right? So it draws less power, but you're getting more performance.
Which is important for portable computing, like a laptop or a handheld gaming system. Battery life.
When we think of like our DRAM-less drives, like this one, the 7100, it is for that. Like, hey, it's someone who, using a battery-powered device. So if it is a handheld that can take a 2280 form factor, or if it's a laptop, especially like a gaming laptop, obviously you can put it in your desktop, no problems there. But yeah, it is definitely an option for someone of getting really good performance, a little bit lighter on your pocket, a little bit more cost effective, and then like I said, the power efficiency can be a big component.
With that in mind, why don't we end off on two more categories? So there's the WD Black SN850P, I believe it's called, P for PlayStation, maybe. And then there's also the SN850X. So, again, forgive the jargon soup, everyone. These are just the model numbers that you may want to jot down and make a mental note if you've got one of these machines. And there's also the 8100. So maybe tell us a little bit about some of these other gaming related SanDisk solutions.
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, yeah. So the WD Black SN850P NVMe SSD, we built it for the PlayStation 5. So this is a PlayStation branded product. So when you look at the box, you'll see like it's a little bit, it's white versus a lot of our other WD Black products are a black box, but it has the PlayStation logo not only on the box, it has it on the product itself. So this is an officially licensed product, meaning that Sony has made us do a bunch of testing and a bunch of kind of confirmation that this product will work in your PS5. You don't have to worry. We've done all the testing for you. Like there's no compatibility issues or you have to worry, oh man, I hope this fits in my PS5. It will. And again, so that's one of our licensed products. You can get all the way up to 8 terabytes of capacity.
Wow.
Right.
For solid state, that's a lot. That's great.
Yeah. So like if you have the original PS5 that came with just under a terabyte of storage, right? If you put an 8 terabyte there, you just 8x, you 8 times increased your available capacity. And yeah, the last thing I'll say about that, what's great about it is you can play games directly off the drive. No. Yeah, there's other solutions you could do where you could store your PS5 games on it, but then you can't actually play your games off of it. You'd have to transfer it back to the internal storage of the console, where with an 850p, it's just like, hey, yeah, I just put, X amount, whether 1, 2, 4, 8 terabytes, I just put that much more storage that I can download and play games directly off of it.
It's great because it's adding to the longevity of the console.
Yeah, exactly.
And then what about SN850X and SN8100?
So yeah, if we want to move to WD Black SN850X, so 850X was a product we launched almost 3 years ago now. What was important about that product at the time was that, this was the fastest drive that we made. So it's an NVMe SSD. And then, sorry, everyone listening, I'm going to throw one more maybe technical term out there.
Yeah.
It's called PCIe. So I think the best way to think of it is like your M.2 slot on your gaming console or your laptop or your desktop. Like that's what we would call the NVMe slot. Right. But then PCIe is how the drive communicates to your processor, right? So you'll hear terms, or if you're looking things up and you're like, what is this? PCIe lanes, right? So what PCIe stands for is Peripheral Component Interconnect Express, right? Again, like the lowercase e means express, but it is how the drive communicates to the rest of the system. We're at a point now where we are at PCIe 5.0, or people will call it Gen 5. So SN850X is a Gen 4 drive. So this goes 7,300 megabytes per second, and this is the fastest Gen 4 drive that we make. So it has either non-heatsink or heatsink options. It's definitely a really good option for maybe someone who probably built a computer at the beginning of COVID and maybe just is looking for an SSD upgrade. An 850X would be a really good option for that. For those people who are like, hey, I did build a computer maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago, but now I'm looking to build a new computer. Now, fast forward from 2020, a lot of the components, including your CPU, your processor, your graphics cards, your RAM, everything now is starting to transition to PCIe Gen 5. The biggest thing to know between Gen 4 and Gen 5 is the speed with Gen 5 doubles. So the theoretical limits of Gen 4 is about 8,000 megabytes per second. And then the theoretical limit of Gen 5 is 16,000 megabytes per second. So this is talking about basically in the terms of storage, right, how fast memory can be transferred. The market's kind of transitioning to Gen 5. And then that's where our newest product that we just launched this week is WD Black SN8100. This NVMe SSD is our PCIe Gen 5 device. What's really awesome about it is that it's 2 times faster than 850X. This drive, 8100, will get up to 14,900 megabytes per second, where 850X is 7,300 megabytes per second. So it's really exciting. We're kind of bringing this new drive for maybe more of those, hardcore PC gamers. If you go to either SanDisk.com or if you go in your search browser and just search for the SanDisk store, you'll be able to find all of these great gaming products.
Thank you so much for carving out some time to chat, Jimmy. Good to catch up with you again, and really great info. Thanks again.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
We'll learn all about the Bee Pioneer wearable AI device when we return on Tech It Out.
Breaking down geek speak into street speak. Tech It Out, hosted by Mark Saltzman.
Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Tech It Out. There's an exciting new category of AI-powered wearable technology, and one such solution is called the Bee Pioneer, which I just saw for the first time the other week. And I think you're going to be blown away after learning what it can do. From Bee, the folks behind the Bee Pioneer, we're joined on the line by Maria Zollo. She's CEO of the company. Thanks for your time, Maria. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark.
So before we talk about Bee Pioneer, and for our listeners, bee, just like the insect, please tell us a bit about this emerging category of AI wearables, sort of at a high level.
I think right now everybody's trying to enhance themselves with wearables. So how actually we can use wearables to make our life better or ourselves more powerful in a way. So from smart trackers, health trackers, to, wearables as Bee, we give the power now to the person to be a best version of themselves.
So wearables that can track your fitness, your health, or even your sleep. I see the benefit of all of that. This, however, is a bit different. It's an AI-powered device that is a companion to your phone, if I'm not mistaken. And what does it do? What does an AI wearable do like Bee Pioneer?
Our focus is not the wearable itself. I want to make it clear. Our focus is the software. The wearable for us is a way where we understand the user better, because the main focus is how ambient AI can understand everything about you and have the context of your life that, ChatGPT perhaps doesn't have, or a normal chatbot doesn't have. So we build the Be Pioneer as a way to stay around the user, learn the user, understand what the user does, his routines, the highlights, the conversations, and we take all of that information to build this amazing personal AI memory that knows everything about you. And after that, we try to understand how, now that we know all this information about the user, how we can predict actions for the user. So how actually we can be really helpful, useful, remind things to the user that sometimes he forgets, or even do action on his behalf.
All right. So it's a wrist-mounted device. It looks like a little bracelet that you would wear that has a microphone. But the secret sauce, if you will, is the software that is the app and the platform. But it's recording conversations. So when I saw it, I was having a coffee with a colleague of yours, Maria, and he was wearing this device. And he showed me in real time the conversation was transcribed into text on his mobile phone. Can it give you like reminders? Hey, don't forget, Mark brought up this radio and podcast opportunity. Don't forget to follow up with him, or should I add this to your calendar? What is done with that conversation?
Absolutely. So the wearable is 7 days battery life. We work a lot around that because our users love a long battery, and it's something that we are really devoted to keep. Mm-hmm. From the conversations, we create summarizations of the conversations that you just had. From there, we understand the highlights of the conversations or what was discussed, and we suggest to do some actionable to-dos after the conversations. So the user has the overview of every single conversation that had during the day, and at the end of the day, we do a summary of their day. More conversations you have, more B will understand you.
I write a lot for aging adults. I write for AARP and Zoomer in Canada, which is a similar platform for those 55 plus. And I love the idea of a device that can not just transcribe everything and set reminders for you, but also summarize everything, like these actionable elements for those who may need some assistance in this space. I think that's a wonderful tool, but it could be for anyone, right? It could be a business person who's having a meeting, or a student who's sitting down with a professor and chatting.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually surprised every day about how many use cases we're discovering directly from our community. I'm reading amazing stories on our Discord channel where they send us feedbacks, or, on our email. And our customers are using B for example, ADHD purposes, students that have difficulties on studying, and they're using B to make themselves more present during the lessons. Mm-hmm. Or, for example, we have another category of neurodivergent people that they use B to understand better the conversations that they had. Or another one that actually it's something that every time I'm amazed and, keep me really excited and give me purpose is people that are using B after that. For example, they had some accidents. For example, I remember now one user had a stroke and has difficulties in memory, and it used B on daily basis because give to him, this overview about the day that sometimes he can keep by himself. Others, for example, are giving B to their parents because they are old and sometimes they forget things. Another one is self-reflection. So now that B knows everything about me, how actually, how I change over time. How do I feel? Do I feel better? What makes me stressed? What makes me happy? And B can give you that overview to you. So even though we started, with transcriptions and summarizations of the conversation, so some use cases as the ones that you were mentioning, like the professional or students, are more clear. From the other side, I can see that if you use B over time, that gives, to your personal AI, the real identity of you, and you can do many things with that.
Because it's leveraging artificial intelligence, Maria, can it also convert languages from one into another?
Yes, absolutely.
So if I'm traveling, could I leverage something like Be Pioneer to give me the English translation?
Yeah, absolutely. Indeed, like English is not my mother tongue. I speak 3 languages a day. I'm Italian, but my mother is Spanish. So I speak Spanish with her, Italian with some of my friends, and English for work. And B understand all the languages at once.
Awesome.
So that's really important for me. And, I wanted to keep the same identity for the app itself.
More about the Be Wearable when we return. Stay with us.
Follow Mark Saltzman on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. Listen to Tech It Out whenever you want.
We're learning about Be Pioneer. This is both a wearable and an app, an AI-powered device and software that you wear, and it will not just record your conversations, but it'll summarize that transcribed conversation for you. It can translate languages, generate reminders, to-do lists, self-reflection, as we're learning from Maria. So I know that there are probably some listeners right now concerned about conversations being recorded. How does Be get around any kind of privacy concerns there?
Actually, we take privacy super seriously, and we want to protect our customers and users from day one. So what we do is we give to them the power to delete every conversations, every summary. They always can mute or unmute the Be when they want. So Be learns what actually they want. On top of that, we never take the raw audio, meaning that every time that we hear a conversation, Be transcribes and we get rid of the audio. We never store it. And on top of that, as a mission of the company, we will never sell the data. So we will not give that to others. We will not monetize from it. We want, to have privacy of our users as first, but also do the best for them.
Does it go up to Be's cloud, or is this all handled on the device, like on your smartphone, for example, or on the bracelet itself?
So for now, it's going to the cloud, but actually we will move everything. And then actually I already saw that our mission is to move everything locally.
Oh, great.
So we have as well another version using local. At the moment, it's not ready yet, so flagging that. But the idea is actually how Be will never see, never touch any sort of data of the user.
That's great. Thanks for that. You mentioned battery life could be as long as 7 days, which is remarkable for wearable technology. If it's transcribing the audio in real time, I know it's not keeping the audio recordings, but doesn't that take up a lot of battery to always be listening? Or is this something where you're finding your users are turning it on and off throughout the day?
Yeah, actually, our battery is something that we are super proud of because we put a lot of effort on working on it. And it's true, at the beginning, we were taking some power, but we made a few tweaks and changes. And now the processing is actually not that heavy on the app. So it really minimized the battery drain.
Dumb question, perhaps, Maria. Since it's very software heavy, it's the app, can you not just use the microphone on your iPhone or Android phone instead of wearing this device?
That's a really good question that different investors, they ask to me because, building hardware is not easy. So the question is why you're just not building an app. But the reality is that, for example, if you're using just your phone and you want to listen music, the music will take over the microphone. Or if you're receiving a call, the audio will stop.
Right. Good point.
So it will not give, to the Be the full idea of you. And on top of that, that will really drain the battery of your phone if we are always on your microphone from your iPhone, for example. Other than that, the idea for us is also ambient. So how actually we can capture an understanding and learn things about you from, your surroundings. So now is audio, but maybe in the future will be cameras or videos. So as a concept and as a mission is how we can understand the customer as a whole. What
about battery life on your phone itself? Does it impact your iPhone or Android device's battery when this is running a lot, when you've got the Be Pioneer working?
So in the initial versions, yes. So when we were testing the V1 or the beta last year, it's something that we cared a lot and was actually draining a bit the battery. Right now, of course, it has some impacts, but as, for example, it will have the Apple Watch. So we are not that different from other wearables like Aura or Apple Watch. You're using Bluetooth to connect with the wearable. It stays there all day. It has an impact, but it's really minimal.
And finally, what's the best website to learn more and to order Be Pioneer?
Of course, Be.computer is $50. Currently, we're sold out, but ship as fast as we can early June. And Yeah, check it out.
All right, b.computer. That's all you need to know. Thank you so much for your time, Maria. Really appreciate it. And congrats on the initial success of this AI wearable.
Thank you so much, Mark.
And thank you for tuning in to Tech It Out. Hope you enjoyed the program today with a variety of topics and guests. I look forward to chatting with you next weekend when I'll be in Taiwan. Yep. Yours truly, traveling a lot. But and we're going to have another AWS interview next weekend as well. If you want to hit me up on social media, if you've got any tech questions for me or for my guests, I can be found on all the big platforms. My name is Mark Saltzman, Mark with a C, Saltzman with a Z. I'm on X, formerly Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, YouTube, TikTok, and a few others. I think I missed some in there. Anyhow, I look forward to hearing from you. Also, let me know where you're tuning into the show from, if you're listening via podcast or on your local talk radio station. Always love hearing from listeners. All the best, everyone. Have a fantastic week ahead, and I look forward to catching up with you next time for another brand new episode of Tech It Out. Ciao for now.